The desert stretches endlessly, its golden sands shimmering under the unrelenting sun. But cutting through this barren wasteland is a river, a ribbon of life, the Nile. Over 7,000 years ago, this river wasn't just a source of water. It was a promise, a beacon of hope in a harsh and unforgiving world. Along its fertile banks, small bands of hunter-gatherers settled. What followed was the birth of a civilization that would endure for millennia. Families clustered in makeshift settlements near the river, the air filled with the smell of wet earth after the floods receded. These early settlers discovered something miraculous. The Nile's annual flood left behind a layer of rich, dark silt that made the ground perfect for farming. They planted wheat and barley, watched their crops flourish, and learned to store grain for the dry months. It was here, on these fertile plains, that humanity took its first steps toward complex society. But life along the Nile wasn't without its challenges. Imagine sudden, unpredictable floods sweeping through their villages, or years where the water barely rose, leaving the soil cracked and lifeless. These hardships forced innovation. They built canals to channel the floodwaters, developed tools to manage their fields, and began to organize into larger communities for survival. The Nile wasn't just a river, it was a teacher, shaping their way of life and their worldview. As these villages grew, so did their ambition. By around 4000 BCE, small tribal kingdoms began to emerge, each with its own leader. But these early kings weren't content to rule small patches of land. The tribes of Upper Egypt, nestled in the narrow valley of the southern Nile, began to expand their influence, while the fertile delta of Lower Egypt to the north became a hub of trade and culture. Now, imagine standing on the banks of the Nile around 3100 BCE. The air is electric with tension. Two powerful kingdoms, Upper and Lower Egypt, are locked in a struggle for dominance. Into this scene steps a man who will change everything. Narmer. His armies sweep through Lower Egypt, uniting the two lands under one crown. Picture his triumphant march along the Nile, the sound of drums and cheering crowds echoing across the water. His victory wasn't just military, it was divine. Narmer became the first pharaoh, a living god chosen to rule by the will of the heavens. With unification came transformation. A centralized government emerged, able to organize massive projects that no single tribe could have managed. Farmers worked together to build canals and granaries. Craftsmen honed their skills, creating intricate pottery, jewelry, and tools. The Nile became a superhighway, carrying goods, ideas, and people up and down its length. Religion also began to take shape during this time. Imagine the sun rising over the Nile, its rays dancing on the water. The early Egyptians worshipped the forces of nature. Ra, the sun god, brought life to their fields, while Osiris, the god of the afterlife, promised eternal peace. These beliefs weren't just spiritual. They were the glue that held society together, reinforcing the pharaoh's divine authority and inspiring the great architectural projects to come. By 2686 BCE, Egypt had laid the foundations of a civilization that would last for thousands of years. Small settlements had grown into thriving cities. Nomadic tribes had become a unified kingdom. And a culture rooted in innovation, faith, and resilience had begun to take shape. Stay with us to uncover how this rising kingdom would soon enter its first golden age, the age of the pyramids, and transform from a simple river valley into one of the most powerful empires the world has ever known.